Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Wolverine Radio. I'm Nick Coultz, and this is Week 7 of Wakeland Football Preview, and my buddy Michael Ramirez is back with me after missing these last 2 weeks. What's up, dog?
What's up, man? It's been a pretty long time, It's been, we've had a couple of breaks, or I've had a couple of breaks here and there, but I'm ready to be back and ready to analyze this football game. It's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, good to be back with you. Last week when you weren't on here and I was with Ty filling in for you, I predicted Wakeland to win by 7 against the Colony last week. Never did I imagine Wakeland was going to win by 35. How did you feel about last week's 56-21 win over the Colony?
Well, I felt like the offense really showed out that night against the Colony because, all season long they failed to they kind of struggled to get anything going against pretty good defenses, and they really exposed the Colony on their defensive side of the ball. And I really like the way that Mason Dorr played. He kept calm and composed, and he threw 2 quick touchdown passes to start off the game and to put up the Wolverines by 14. And that really set the tone throughout the rest of that matchup, and it really exposed not only their defense but also the Colony's offense as well, because they failed to get anything going on, especially early on in the game. They did score two touchdowns in the second half, but that was sort of when Wakeland was putting in their backups because they were dominating so much. So it was definitely a surprise, but it was a pleasant surprise of that because Wakeland showed out. They really showed everyone that they deserve to be in the playoffs this year, and they're in the mix now. 3 weeks ago before the Liberty game, we really thought that Wakeland didn't have a really much of a chance to make the playoffs because of the rigor of this district and how high-powered we thought most of these teams were going to be. But Wakeland's really proved everyone wrong, including us, to say the least. But they've definitely played past their potential this season, and they're really starting to step up. So I really like the team, or the direction that this team's going.
Yeah, the offense was balling. Jay Jai, another 220 yards for him and 2 touchdowns. Cole Starnes, though, 135 yards on 15 carries and 3 touchdowns. And I don't even want to compare them. Just the fact that Wakeland has 2 great running backs. Just they both, when you take Jay out, Cole comes in and does the job. I mean, both of them are just tremendous. Mason Dorr, 12 for 17. 181 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So this entire team is playing well, specifically on offense too. And Charles Robinson, he's really stepped up at that wide receiver position. Last game against the Colony, 5 catches, but for 89 yards and a touchdown. I've been very impressed with how Charles Robinson has been playing. But drifting from last week's massive win into this week's game against the Frisco Centennial Titans. Looking at the District 9-5A standings, Centennial's 3rd, Wakeland's 4th, but they have the same record both overall and in district play. They're 3-1 in district and 4-2 overall. Centennial is a very, very good team. Tell me a little bit more about this football team.
Well, I think when you look at Centennial's offense, when you look at them offensively, you really look to their running back as well, just like as you would if you looked at Wakeland. You have Anthony Pegues in the backfield for the Centennial Titans. He's racked up 1,191 rushing yards with 10 touchdowns, and that's kind of saying something, especially for Jai, because he's ran for 1,070 when he's played 1 less game than Pegues has. So it really shows that this matchup between these 2 running backs, and to see if each defense can stop if they can stop the running game, that'll really set the tone for this game. But I think that not only in the rushing game, but the passing as well is what Centennial can beat you with as well, because they do have really good receivers, including Kenny Nelson, who's already racked up 402 receiving yards with 4 touchdowns. And then you look at their second wide receiver, Danny Mustaka. He's got 279 with 4 touchdowns as well. So they can certainly beat you not only on the ground but in the air as well. And it's really going to be a tough matchup for this Wakeland defense, who's for the most part struggled all year long. Especially when it comes to the passing game, because that secondary has been kind of banged up throughout the year, and they haven't really had as much experience that they had in past years. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for this Wakeland team, but I think it's going to be a good one, if that.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a good game, but looking still specifically at Centennial, Court Walker, the quarterback, he's 19th in the area in passing. He's 8 yards short of 1,000, and he's got 9 touchdowns. He does have 4 interceptions, though. And like you said, Kenny Nelson, over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So this offense is very good and productive. What I like about this Centennial team, though, is the defense. Last week against Lone Star, they only let up 28 points. They lost to Lone Star 28-14, and that's so far Centennial's only loss in district. And if you don't know, guys, Lone Star is first in the district. They're 7-0 overall. They're a very good football team, and I'll be very surprised if anybody wins the district other than them. But again, back to Centennial. They only lost by 14. They threw an interception at the 1 yard line, and they missed a field goal. So that easily could have been a 4 point game or even closer. But the defense, the fact that they held Jason Shelley and Lone Star to 28 points, teams or a team that or a game I should say that most teams could not do because you don't see that very often. Lone Star scoring 28 points. I mean, they're known for putting points on the scoreboard, and Centennial's defense, specifically the secondary, very, very good last game, and they've been good all season. So Wakeland's going to have to find a way to score, which leads into my next question. Centennial's a very good team. We know that. If Wakeland's going to pull this game out, how are they going to do that? How are they going to stop Centennial?
Well, I think they're going to need to have the same game plan that they had against the Colony last week, which is which is really pound in the running game. Because when you get J.R. Jai going, and now you have Cole Starnes, we mentioned earlier on in the year because he was hurt how much that hurt the offense because they had a dynamic player out for a couple of games, so it really didn't show the Wakeland offense's full potential. But now we've sort of got to see it as the season's progressed and gone along, and so I really think that if they get the running game going, then it'll open up more doors for Mason Dorr and that offense, especially for Cole Hutchinson. You mentioned Charles Robinson, who stepped up these past couple of games. So now he's got 233 yards on the season receiving, and then 3 touchdowns. So they really need to expose Centennial's defense, especially that defensive line, because if Wakeland can dominate in the trenches, if their offensive line can push Centennial's defensive line, then I think they can open up some holes for J.R. Jai, and that's when really he can hurt you, especially with his feet, because you can't really stop this guy once he gets going. So you can't. They need to get momentum early on in the game. They need to strike fast. They don't want to be down by too much against this good Centennial team, because once Centennial has a lead, they really run away with it. So I really think that they need to stick with the game plan that they had for the Colony. Really slow down Pegues in the running game. They especially for the Wakeland defense, they really need to step up this game because Centennial can hurt you in so many ways. But I think if they get off to a really fast start and they keep the pressure on Centennial, then I think they can win this ball game. And if they do end up winning this ball game, then they potentially could go to third place, maybe even second place, depending on how Frisco does this week as well.
Well, and you mentioned earlier in this that Wakeland's proved us wrong, and they absolutely have. And I think that's because the offense is just scoring so many points. I'm so impressed with this Wakeland offense. And if they want a chance to win this game, they're going to have to keep doing that. And so far, they've proved that they are capable of doing that, and they can score a lot of points because they have so much firepower. And this Wakeland offense just continues to score touchdowns, whether it's rushing with Orjai or Starnes. And then we have Robinson and Hutchins that we talked about. Tanner Uding obviously getting a big role on offense. Mason Dorr's been solid with 13 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions on the year. So this entire offense has been phenomenal. Do they have enough to beat Centennial? What's your prediction for this game?
Well, I think it just kind of all depends on how each team comes out and to start off the game. I really think Wakeland does have a pretty good chance of winning this game, but it just depends how their defensive players play and their impact players on the offensive side of the ball play. But I think Centennial might be a little bit too much for this Wakeland team, so I'm going to go ahead and go with 45-20 in Centennial's favor. So if that does end up happening, if Wakeland does lose this game, then they really need to sort of win out the rest of the year if they want to make the playoffs or to put themselves in a good position to make the playoffs. But yeah, I'm going to go with 45-20. Centennial wins this ball game.
Yeah, I'm going 42-28 with Centennial also winning, and I don't mean that anything offensively to this Wolverines team. They're playing well. They're a good football team. Centennial is a very, very, very good football team. As we said, they're 3-1 in district. Their only losses to Lone Star, though, which was a very close game. Centennial very easily could have found a way to win that game. This game is important, though, and if Wakeland can find a way to pull this off, that would be humongous. And obviously, this game could go either way, but I just think in the end, Centennial has too much because I think Centennial has a better defense, and defense is very crucial in these district games because a lot of these teams have good offense, but if you have a good defense that separates yourself from other teams that can actually limit these offenses to lower points, obviously, that'll come through. And Centennial's been doing that, and even though they lost to Lone Star, they limited them. So if Lone Star only scored 28 on Centennial. Wakeland might have some trouble scoring on the Titans defense as well. But we'll see. It's going to be a very good game. It's the 3rd and 4th place teams in District 9-5A going at it. So once again, Centennial Wakeland, 7 o'clock Friday night. It'll be a very good football game, and we'll see if Wakeland can pull it off. Although we both predicted Centennial to win, we've been wrong before, and we hope we're wrong again. So we'll see what happens. It'll be a very good football game. Come out and support on Friday. Once again, this was Nick Cool. It's Michael Ramirez for Week 7 of Wakeland Football Preview on Wolverine Radio.